Hi, my name is Gabriela Garcia, and I will be talking today about positive psychology. Positive psychology has been defined by Gable and Haid as a scientific study of human flourishing and an applied approach to optimal functioning. It has also been defined as a study of strengths and virtues that enable individuals, communities, and organizations to thrive. In an article by Martin Seligman, he describes positive psychology's aim as being to change the focus of the field of psychology from reparation of the worst things in life to building positive qualities. Most people tend to associate psychology with fixing psychological disorders such as depression, bipolar disorder, and the like. The reason for this is that it is precisely in this realm where most psychologists have devoted their attention and study. Many of the disorders that have now been classified, diagnosed, and treated were once a mystery. Now, thanks to the advances made in our field, we have a grasp on the causes and treatments for these disorders, whether they are treated with psychotherapy or pharmacology. Positive psychology is a relatively new focus in this field of psychology, as it has only been studied for the last 20 years compared to traditional psychology. The title positive psychology isn't meant to say that traditional psychology is something negative and faulty, but rather that it focuses on positive aspects of the human psyche like courage, hopefulness, and optimism. How does it differ from traditional psychology? Well, while traditional psychology has made great leaps in helping individuals suffering from psychological disorders, it has neglected those who we would characterize as normal. Traditional psychology operated by the disease model. Psychologists became so engrossed in finding outside causes for illnesses that the ensuing perspective was that human beings are victims and reactive to external circumstances that affect us. The focus then became to cure these illnesses and provide healing to the languishing. Perhaps it was because many of the disorders that we now are familiar with were so attention grabbing and rare. Very little mind was paid to the average human being that does not exhibit any extraordinary symptoms linked to a disorder. In this way, traditional psychology failed in that it did not analyze the majority. While advances were made in helping those who were lacking, no advances were made that led to the betterment of the average adult. The name positive psychology can be a bit misleading. Again, this isn't an indirect way of calling traditional psychology negative, but rather noting that the focus of positive psychology is on the positive aspects of the human psyche. Instead of being reactive, positive psychology seeks to prevent psychological disorders. This is done by nurturing an individual's strengths and amplifying them as much as possible. The value of positive psychology in combating psychological disorders. Martin Seligman, the first person to define positive psychology, noticed that individuals who suffered from hopelessness and other negative thoughts could also end up with clinical depression. These triggers from clinical depression did not come from some external source, but rather from the lack of positive emotions or feelings. This led him to the question of whether certain psychological disorders like depression could be prevented by encouraging individuals to focus on their strengths and encourage them to take action in areas that bring about good feelings. The result was an endeavor to define what it is that qualifies a good life. Seligman found that it wasn't necessarily the pleasurable life that brought about the greatest sense of satisfaction, as the things that we would consider to be pleasurable can lose their thrill and we need to seek out more of them. However, job satisfaction played a key role in his findings. If a person knew their individual strengths and was able to reframe their job, even if they hated it, into something they loved to do, they would achieve a state called flow, in which time passes by rapidly because one is enjoying their work. Aside from this, using one's strengths in service of something larger than yourself leads to a meaningful life. Serving others, it was found, brought longer lasting satisfaction than simply living a pleasurable life. Imagine a community where people go out of their way to do altruistic action and enjoying doing so. that community would be transformed. As people feel good about doing good deeds, they tend to repeat them. How can this benefit you? In studying positive psychology, it was discovered that people who tended to have a more positive outlook on their experiences ended up living longer. Another benefit is greater creativity and more integrative solutions in problem solving. Lastly, it was also discovered that people who experienced more positive sensations like joy, peace, and love recovered from the cardiovascular repercussions of negative emotions. These are just three benefits that were discovered by focusing on the effect of positive psychology. Imagine how much more could be found as this area is studied further. As this field has developed, so have various assessments that can help the average internet user find their strengths and how to best use them. I hope you have enjoyed this brief article on positive psychology and would like to encourage you to get to know yourself a little better, how you are uniquely designed, and how you can change the world around you.